we are interviewing Lloyd Sullivan. Today's date is August 16th, 2021. The interview in which you are about to participate is part of the Wood County Historical Commission's project to record the history of the common schools of Wood County, Texas. The content of this interview will focus on your experience at Concord Rural School. Okay, would you tell us your full name?
My name is Herschell Lloyd Sullivan,
And what year were you born?
1936,
And how old are you?
84, pushing 85, real hard.
Next week.
Yeah.
What were your parents' name?
Jasper Parker Sullivan and Errol Lois Sullivan.
And what was your father's occupation?
A farmer.
What school or schools did you attend in Wood County?
The first 8 years I went to Concord School, and then finished out high school at Quitman.
And what grades did you go to Concord?
1 through 8.
Was 8th grade the highest level grade at Concord?
At Concord, yes.
How old were you when you started school?
6,
Do you remember what year that was?
1942.
How did you get to school every day?
Well, most of the time I walked to school.
How far was it from your house to the school?
Probably about a mile. But part of that, I couldn't stay on the road. So a part of the way I went to our home place, and when the road turned, well, I cut across the field, and part of it was a field, and part of it was woods.
Okay.
And
What about when it was really cold? Did you still walk?
yeah, if it got real bad, Daddy would take us in the old truck,
And if it was raining, what would you do? Did you put something over the truck to keep
Well,
the rain off?
No, we probably, it would be crowded, but probably 4 or 5 of us could get in
Pack in.
in the cab of the truck.
Okay. How many of your brothers and sisters went to that school at the same time with you?
Ryan was 2 years ahead of me, and Don was 5 behind me, and I could be,
Your older siblings, John and Sarah and Judy, were probably already past 8th grade
right,
then.
yeah. So me and Wayne would go in at the
For a
same
while,
time,
y'all were
and
the
then-
only.
And then later on, Don was in part of it.
Okay. And where was the school? Can you kind of tell me about where, like from Concord Church or the cemetery?
North of about a mile and a half, I suppose, north of the church.
Did you have like a gathering place for everybody?
Not, well, there was 3 rooms, but on the time when I was going there, we only used two of the rooms, and when we had an assembly or a program or something, there was a place that it was like a stage that we could bring in and put down to raised about 6 or 8 inches English, but we really didn't have an assembly room.
Okay. Do you remember what kind of programs or assemblies would y'all have? Do you remember any of them?
Well, you know, we always all had a Christmas program, Thanksgiving, and Halloween, Valentine. Probably have something about Halloween too.
Okay. What about restrooms? Did you have to go to an outhouse or?
Outhouse, yeah. There was behind, the north of the school. On one side was the trail that went up to the girls' restroom, and the other side corner of the property was the one for the boys.
Okay. Did any of the kids ride their horses to school?
Maybe a few times, you know. Yeah.
What time did the school start each morning?
Well, I want to say 8:30.
And what time was it let out?
Probably 3 or 4.
Okay.
3 or 4.
What time of the year did you start school?
September. Have a break for Christmas, and then we would get out probably May, maybe the end of May.
Okay. And tell a little bit about, so you would go to school in September, but then you would get a break, wouldn't you? Or it might not have been a break because you had to stay home and work. But talk about when the crops would come in and y'all wouldn't have school.
I would think that when we were picking cotton, that would take up September and maybe part of October. And it would be, but we would start earlier, maybe we would go through August, something like that.
Okay. And all the kids would stay home and work. I mean, there wasn't school for anybody, right? The
Right.
school was just closed.
Yeah.
Were there other times that you might have to miss school to work at home on the farm, or just mainly cotton?
Well, there would be times that we would need to be working in the field, and we would just miss school, but maybe 3 or 4 times during the week, during the year,
Okay.
something like that.
Were most of the teachers women, or were there some men that taught?
Yeah, the part when I was in school there at Concord, it was women. There was one year that an old fellow came on and taught for a year.
Okay. Do you remember many of your teachers?
Yeah, I sure do.
Who was your first teacher?
Miss Dolly Turner,
Okay.
and she lived in Mineola, and she came every day,
Okay. And what grade was that? First grade?
First grade, yeah.
And did she teach more than one grade?
Yes, and she taught 4, 1 through 4. It was 2 teachers, and 1 through 4, and then 5 through 8.
So you had her for first, second, third, and fourth
No,
grade.
she was only that first one. She had a baby after school was the year was, and she didn't come back.
Mm.
She,
Do you remember who you had after her?
yeah, Miss Emmy Harbin,
Okay.
and Miss Harbin was our teacher in the second, and let's see, during the time that we were out of school, she got married, and the next, let's see, that'd be her third grade. She was Mrs. Miss Emily Cochran, and then I think Miss Olita Stevens, probably fourth or something.
Okay.
And then Miss Jewel Rainwater was our teacher from 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was your favorite one?
Oh, Miss Dolly.
Miss
'Cause
Dolly.
she took us up. But somewhere in between this old fellow that I mentioned a while ago was DeWitt Tickle, and he was an old fellow that I'm not sure where he came from, but he didn't last but 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did y'all ever pull any tricks or pranks on your teachers?
Oh, I'm sure we do.
Okay.
Didn't get very far with them, but we tried.
Okay. What would happen if you got in trouble at school? What kind of punishment would you get?
Well, first time you'd probably get a good talking to, and explain what's going to happen and what you better do to change your ways. And if you had to, well, most of the teachers had a paddle. Sometimes she would send you to get a switch off of a bush.
When you were going to school, when school started for the year, did you have to bring any supplies with you?
Yeah, of course, in the first few years, well, it was pretty much a tablet and pencil and stuff like that, and further along the way, well, maybe it'd be a notebook or folders.
Okay. Who were some of your best friends in school?
Well, when I first started in 42, we didn't have desks. We sat at little tables, and I didn't know I guess I knew him, but I didn't know him very well. But Robert Stedry sat right across the table from me, and we went all the way through school, and was special friend. There was a set of twins, Geneva and Janice Burgess, and the Burgess twins lived, I guess that would be west of our home place, and they probably, a lot of the times, they come to close to our house, and we'd go with them and walk to school together and so forth. And there was a boy that came from east of the school, was Kenneth Huckabee. He had a sister, Winifred, was probably a couple of years older than Kenneth. And then there was a younger boy too. I can't remember his name right now.
Would you and your friends get together during the weekends and play, or did y'all mainly work?
Yeah. Mostly it was just at school, you know, when like we'd get out a lunch deal, would be under a tree and there was a porch on the front of the school, so we could sit on that porch, you know, and have our lunch. Another one would be Alice Cameron. They lived across the field, east of us at the old home place. And Margie Rickey they lived between our house and the school, but a lot of times we just meet about there at their house and go on to school.
What was your school built out of wood, or
Wood.
it was a wood?
Yeah, with a metal roof.
And did the people in the community, were they in charge of maintenance and taking care of the building?
Yeah, they had, of course, there was a man in the equipment, the county seat, that was the superintendent of all of the country schools. And I suppose everything would have to go through his office, but there was also I don't know whether they were elected or just maybe but anyway, it would be the board. And Daddy was in our, usually most of the time was on the board, and some of the other men.
And would the community come to the school to do things? Like, is that where the community gatherings would happen?
Yeah. One of the first ones that I remember about was me starting off in 42, and the nation was in war with World War II. And there would be maybe the superintendent or maybe someone from equipment would come out and talk to us about the situation. And they solicited donations to go towards the war effort. pupils got a little book, and like if, let's just say, for a quarter, you can buy a stamp and put it in your book. And then when you got your book turned in, your money turned in, well, that went towards it. But the families and the adults had a different situation. They would, if anybody had any money, they could donate it towards that. The other thing that during the war, they collected salvage medals. For instance, they would tell you, you'd get a brochure out that if you had an old plow car or something you didn't use, but it could be used to melt down and make ammunition or equipment. And, another thing I remember during that World War II, they had blackout nights. There was it was on the radio and in the paper and everything. And, a certain night, is when it got dark, then don't have any light on, and it was really scary to kids at least,
Did y'all get a recess every day?
Yeah.
Was it like right after your lunch while you were?
After lunch, probably with my
Did y'all have stuff on your playground?
Yeah.
To play, what kind of things did you have?
We played softball. We played volleyball and basketball.
Did you have any equipment like a swing or?
Yeah, had swings and seesaws.
Okay. Did y'all do anything special to celebrate the end of the school year?
Yeah, that was usually a play day, and the people in the community would feed us, and most time it would be like make a stew.
And for graduation, did y'all have an 8th grade graduation?
Yeah.
And what kind of things did they do?
Well, they'd be the one that had learned most, and maybe their grade best.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think we got a little ball.
Okay.
8th grade, or maybe even from the 4th grade.
Okay. Are there any organizations for parents? Like, did your parents ever come to school and do things for the school to help the teachers?
Yeah.
What did they do?
If there was going to be a program like a Christmas program, well, that maybe they would put things together as uniforms and the Christmas tree, of course, and then Santa would come and give everybody an apple and some candy.
Did y'all have any sports teams? Or did y'all all just get out and play the softball and basketball?
Well, if it was just our group, there would be someone would be the captain, and they would choose who they wanted to be on their team, and that it'd be one side to the other. But when we would, at certain times, we would go to a neighboring school, and our team would play theirs.
Okay. And so you would compete against other schools?
Yeah.
What schools do you remember y'all would compete against?
Hinesville, Coke, and Coke, their school was Lloyd School, so we would go there. At Cana, out west of Woodman. I don't remember of us ever going to New Hope. And see, we didn't have a Concord school, never had a bus, so we all piled in. Ms. Rainwater's Chevy car, I don't know how you get 8 or 9 people in there. It happened. It might have been part of it, might have been in the trunk.
How was the school, how did you stay warm inside the school building?
Well, we had each of those big, pretty large, if it was 4 years, and there was say maybe 6 or 8 in each grade, that'd be maybe 25 or 30 people, but we had a big old, they call them potbelly heaters. It was wood heaters, and somebody might put fire in the mornings for school days, and kept putting wood on. The boys usually had the job of keeping wood in, and then I think we had some old fans, that we turned on in the warm place.
Okay. And when it was cold, when it was hot, just raise the windows and use some fans.
Yeah. But the difference is, we didn't have air conditioning at home. So, you got, whether you liked it or not, you got used to it. If it was night, and times when you were home, the temperature would be hot there too. So, didn't bother us. When it was out working, it was hot or it was cold. Put on coat.
So today in school, if you're on the playground and you fall and you get hurt, or if you get sick, you go to the school nurse. So did you just tell the teacher if you were sick or hurt? Do you remember some of the rules in your classroom? Were there specific rules or just mind your manners?
Mind your manners.
Now you mentioned earlier that after the teacher talked to you, if you got in trouble, then it could get to the point that you got a paddling or you had to go get a switch. Did you ever get a paddling or have to go get a switch?
No, I didn't, because it was a family rule that if you get in trouble at school, you were in trouble at home. So, you know, just watch your P's and Q's. Don't get in trouble.
I think you brought that one down with you from when you were little. I recall that same kind of rule. What was your favorite subject in school?
Math, that's it.
Why did you like math?
Because it was an ongoing challenge. When you start out, you're working on 1, 2, 3s, you know, the numerals, and then the times tables on multiplication, and it was just more of a challenge, I guess. I had trouble with fractions.
Mm. And all of your jobs as an adult dealt with numbers and math.
Yeah.
So that was your favorite thing. That makes sense. So you brought your lunch from home every day, didn't you?
Yeah.
What kind of things would you bring in your lunch?
Well, it was pretty simple. When we look in our lunchbox, if it was leftover biscuits, if we had bacon, there'd be some bacon in there with that biscuit. If there's ham, that's what we had.
Okay. And what kind of container did you have, like a metal lunch box or a sack, or what did you put your lunch in?
Really, the main thing would be like what we call a syrup bucket, about a gallon sand pail with a lid.
Okay.
Now, some kids had lunch boxes, you know, and whatever you
you
can come up with.
Let's see. So after the 8th grade, you went to Quitman High School. And how did you get from your house to Quitman High School?
Okay, there was a Whitman school had to have a bus, had buses, and our bus came from the bus came from I guess Pine Mills or somewhere, Haynesville, and on towards Whitman.
Do you remember who your bus driver was?
Yeah, Mr. Shields.
Okay. And what year did you graduate from Quitman?
1954.
What was it like to change from Concord School to Quitman High School?
It was a culture problem.
Okay.
You know, we went from a little school to a bigger school, and Whitman wasn't not necessarily that big, but it was much bigger than the other. They had a lot of teachers, they had a lot of rules, and it was a tough day, a time for the country kids. You know.
Were there kids from the other common schools that would go there too?
Yeah.
So you weren't just the Concord kids coming in, it was people from all around?
Yeah, it was the Quitman kids that grew up in
things did you get involved with at Quitman High School?
Well, the main thing to me, being a country boy, we got in FFA, the ag, when how you had to have a calf or a pig or chickens or whatever,
Okay. What's the main thing you would want people to remember or to know about the Concord School?
Well, it was the fact that you were getting away from home, home ways of doing things, and being around other kids and learning to go with the flow,
Okay. Anything else you want to say about Concord School?
Well, I'll tell you about this, and I didn't mention her name because she didn't start in the first grade, but Llewellyn Brook lived between Concord and Haynesville, and she really lived closer to Haynesville. And the first grade came, she went to Haynesville School, and she went all the way through. But when she got to the second grade, they said, no, you can't come here. Y'all live in the Concord district. So she came to Concord, and you remember Lou was a tall girl. She was, I guess, by the time she got grown, and even in high school, she was 6 feet or better. And she could, whatever sports that we had, she could outdo on everybody there, boys and girls too. And when we played volleyball, she played on the front line, and she could spike that ball over the net, and make somebody swallow it. And when we played softball, she was the pitcher, and she could whip, anybody that ever come along with that. So they didn't know nobody messed with her because Lou was tough, and she was bigger and taller and everything,
And y'all remained friends for
Yeah, she wanted, you
years
wanted
and
to
years.
make your friend, but you don't want to be her enemy. She with you.
And the people that you went to school with, y'all stayed pretty close friends.
Yeah.
I mean, even after high school, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anything else about Concord?
No, it was, I guess it was the start of maturity, I've got well, we had the rules at home, but it was a little bit different when you got into school, but it was a structured situation, and you do what you have to do.